Maybe Robert Exel slightly prefaced what our next clip is going to be about, but since Floyd Mayweather will not fight Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao is talking nonsense about how he wants to fight Floyd Mayweather, we are going on to far greener pastures, question mark, asterisk on top of that statement. But Manny Pacquiao, as Robert Exel has stated, has simply run out of fighters to fight within the Top Rank Promotions company. The next opponent, who it is widely considered to be, is Timothy Bradley. Now, they last fought in Las Vegas in 2012. It was a controversial decision. We have talked about it ad nauseum on this very medium of TYT Sports. But let me ask you this, Robert. Is that the best opponent for Manny Pacquiao as he totally rolled through and steamrolled through Brandon Rios and a few other opponents? Is this the right fight right now, since Bradley is certainly on the up as well?
I wouldn't think so. I think Bradley has a really good chance of beating Pacquiao legitimately this time. I think Bradley has grown as a fighter to some extent. He had that war with Provodnikov. He defeated Marquez, who, even though he's 40 years old, is still a considerable fighter. And I think that if if Bradley fights the same fight he fought when they first met, I think Bradley will win this time, and I think Bradley will win legitimately.
Bradley, a fighter who is undefeated, 31-0 with 12 knockouts. I really have found a new wave of respect for Timothy Bradley, along with a lot of other boxing fans, because of the war that he was in. And I don't like throwing that term around a lot, but he was in an absolute slugfest and a war with Ruslan Provodnikov, and that certainly resurged both of their careers, you could even say. Provodnikov went on to even greener pastures, as I stated previously, no asterisk on that, when he defeated Mike Alvarado, and there might even be a fight with him and Brandon Bam Bam Rios. So Provodnikov is good from that fight. But Bradley showed heart, and we talk about it a lot, but we never really see it in this sort of way. We saw it with Kelly Pavlik, Jermaine Taylor. We've seen it with a few other fighters, but Bradley won over fans. He showed heart in that fight. He said he suffered a concussion. He was out for days, maybe even weeks after that fight, because the concussion was looming on him. And then, of course, as you stated, he beat Juan Manuel Marquez. Even though he is older, he certainly knocked the hell out of Manny Pacquiao. So with the fans suddenly shifting towards look, the fans are always going to love Manny Pacquiao, and they're certainly going to love Manny Pacquiao from the good cop, bad cop, with Pacquiao being the good and Mayweather being the bad, and the villain, what seems like in boxing, even though a lot of people do have respect for him, because he is certainly going to give you a great payday. But what sort of resurgence have you seen from Timothy Bradley, albeit he is 30 years old, but with those great wins, what resurgence have you seen?
Well, I think the resurgence is tangible. I don't know how, it's sort of maybe a mile wide, but I don't know how deep it is. I don't know that fans have really embraced Timothy Bradley, in part because fans like knockouts. That's a part of the game. It's not the whole game, but it's really what the average, fight fan wants. They want to see knockouts. And Bradley is not a power puncher. That's not what he does. That's not who he is. And that is not among the gifts that he brings to the ring. He brings skill, he brings intelligence, he brings athleticism, but he doesn't bring a lot of power. So, again, the respect has increased for Bradley, in part because there are perhaps fewer fighters at that weight, certainly within under Top Rank's banner, who one can respect. Again, Bradley will give Pacquiao a good fight, I think, but it's not really the kind of fighter that Pacquiao needs and wants in order to look good. He needs somebody like Bam Bam Rios, perhaps like Provodnikov, who I thought would be the logical next opponent, but I think Provodnikov is perhaps too tough, frankly.
Yes.
And hence, we've got possibly Pacquiao Bradley too.
Now, I think that this would be a good fight for both fighters, because they have certainly changed within the last time that they fought. Look, Pacquiao, as we all know, he got knocked out cold for about 2 minutes when he fought Juan Manuel Marquez in their fourth fight. Timothy Bradley, as I stated previously, has won over fans like crazy, rightfully so. But going back to one thing you said, you did say that fans like knockouts, and I completely agree with you. Fans do like knockouts, but they also do like competitive fights. And Timothy Bradley has been in 2 competitive fights in his last 2 fights. Granted, he absolutely owned Juan Manuel Marquez in the ring. As you said, a very intelligent and smart fighter is Timothy Bradley. But even in that fight against Provodnikov, that was a slugfest, that was tough, and yet he did not go down. So out of anything, what fans like to see are not only slugfests and knockouts, but they like to see competitive fights. So won't this be an even more, competitive fight from the last time that they fought in 2012?
I believe it will be. I mean, if Pacquiao keeps, if the Pacquiao we saw against Rios is the Pacquiao who enters the ring against Bradley, it ought to be a competitive fight. I mean, their first fight was competitive. It wasn't thrilling. It wasn't particularly exciting, and of course the decision was really questionable. But it will be a competitive fight, and I do believe both fighters have a lot of riding on this. I mean, if Bradley were to lose, Bradley's career will continue. Pacquiao has already lost, and of course it hasn't really hurt his career in any sort of substantial way except at the gate, which is perhaps the most important way. As you know, the Rios fight with Pacquiao, I think only got like 500,000 buys, so it was way below expectations. Whether or not the fight with Bradley can exceed those expectations, we have to wait and see.